Good evening. Today is March 6, 2024, and I will now call the meeting of the Planning Commission to come to order. Please rise and follow Commissioner Lujan in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
May I have our Planning Commission Secretary, Ria, please call roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Lujan,
Present.
Commissioner Sakali,
Present.
Commissioner Morales, excused. Vice Chair Guerra,
I'm here.
and Chair Uva.
Present. Now is the time set aside for oral communications from the Planning Commission. Does any commissioner wish to make an announcement, report on a conference, meeting, or request items for a future agenda? Commissioner Guerra. Oh, excuse me, Vice Chair Guerra.
Thank you. No, I told the staff that I will probably be gone. Well, not probably, I will be gone. My wife and I are taking a long trip on there in April. So I just wanted to make sure that the rest of my commissioners knew that. And I know the staff did. So in 8 years on the city council, I never missed a meeting. Okay, in 8 years, and this will be my first planning commission, but it is what it is. Sorry, I'll think of you guys now. Not really, but anyways. And then the only thing is, I did go by the location on the agenda today, and in last week too. So
Okay,
wanted
thank
to
you.
pronounce that.
Commissioner Lujan?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saikali?
None at this time.
Great. And I have none.
I had
Now is the time set aside for presentations. May the Director of Community Development please introduce the staff making our presentation.
Good evening, Chair Uva and members of the public and the commission. Tonight, the first agenda item, as you mentioned, is a presentation entitled Development Review Process. And this presentation will be provided by two of us. The first part will be provided by Raymond Pasqua, who is our planning consultant to the city's Community Development Department under the Planning Division. Under the normal course of our business, sometimes we have special projects that require consultant assistance, and they act as an extension of staff under my oversight under the Community Development Department. So Mr. Ray Pasqua is part of the Sagecrest Environmental Consulting Firm. Will be providing the first part of the presentation, and I will be providing the latter part of the presentation. So with that, I'll introduce Ray to the podium, and Ria, if you can give him the clicker, we'll get started with the presentation. The presentation is anticipated to last about 20 or so minutes. We'll try to compress it as much as possible, but the goal of this presentation is to provide an overview of the city's development review process, the various types of applications that can be made to the Planning Division and the Community Development Department, and the type of requirements that are made of the applicants, the timeline for reviews, and just how it goes through from beginning to end. So with that, I'll let Ray take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Irma. Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to present a general overview of the city's development process. In the interest of time, I'll try to get through these slides at a reasonable pace, so at the end we can have ample time for Q&A. Hope you find the information helpful. So where's the clicker? So the current general plan was adopted by City Council back in January 25, 2005, almost, or 19 years ago. And I'd like to refer to the general plan as a living and breathing document because it contains a lot of information, a lot of important policies and programs that city staff reference quite often for guidance and as it relates to land use development in the city. Pursuant to state government code, there are 7 mandatory elements of the general plan, and that are required to be in the general plan, and they are land use, circulation, housing, conservation, open space, noise, and safety, all of which are contained in your general plan. Additionally, there are also a design element as well as economic development. And then earlier today, I found out that there's going to be a environmental justice element as well, if that's correct. Yeah. So, and as you know, the housing element is the only element of the general plan that's required by the state to be updated periodically, usually between 4 and 8 years. And the updates usually sometimes triggers updates to other elements of the general plan as required. The zoning ordinance, which can be found in Article 9 of the Municipal Code, is what implements the goals and objectives of the general plan. And it's important that the provisions of the general plan and the zoning ordinance corresponds with the maps be consistent with one another. The zoning ordinance contains the rules and regulations of land use development for each of the zoning districts. It prescribes where different types of development and uses can be established, as well as what uses are permitted by right and what uses are permitted through a conditional use permit. It prescribes where different types of developments and uses can be established. I think I covered that. So these are the types of development reviews. The first type is the ministerial review, which involves projects that are permitted by right and are handled pretty much at staff level. These types of projects include temporary and permanent signs, fireworks stands, business licenses. Projects also include simple home improvements like patio covers, room additions, and those sorts of improvements to homes. The other type is the discretionary review, which involves projects that require public hearing, public outreach efforts, noticing to the public, to review and solicit comments for development applications, such as site plan reviews, CUPs, variances. This slide shows these slides show who are directly involved with conducting and coordinating discretionary review projects. There is the city planner or the current community development director who oversees this role in reviewing administrative permits such as minor modifications, minor CUPs, minor site plan reviews, and home occupation permits, just to name some of the projects that are under her purview. Then there is the Planning Commission, this body, that has the duty to review and take actions on CUPs, site plan reviews, plan sign programs, variances, and other development applications. And of course, the third discretionary reviewing body is the City Council, who are tasked to review general plan amendments, specific plans, zone changes, zone amendments. It is important to note that there are some development applications where the Planning Commission takes on an advisory role in making recommendations on projects to City Council. And those projects include general plan amendments, zone changes, and specific plans. So for the next couple of slides, I'll go over the project review, environmental review, public hearing, and appeal. The project review phase of the development process is when city staff initially meets with the applicant to get a sense of what the project is about, what type of review is needed, what kind of applications are required. And moving forward, the project proponent files the appropriate applications with the city. City staff reviews them for completeness Submittal plans are distributed to various departments for their review and to solicit comments, and if necessary, external agencies, again, to gather up any comments that they may have on the project. During the project review, there's a lot going on between the applicant and city staff to make certain that the application package that comes before the Planning Commission is complete. For some of the more complex and challenging projects, the applicant and city staff as well have to go through a couple of cycles of submitting, resubmitting application project plans, again, to make sure that we can get the application package ready for a public hearing. We went through that. So upon submittal of the application package, city staff has to adhere to a 30-day shot clock to determine whether the application is complete or not. On this slide are some of the required items to make the application package complete, including environmental information, which we'll quickly cover in the next slides. So the submittal of the environmental information for a project is a pretty big component of the application package. The California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, was passed into law in 1970, and it requires state and local agencies to evaluate and consider potential environmental impact of a project. This slide highlights the purposes of CEQA, which includes informing decision makers and the public of environmental impacts of a project, how these impacts can be avoided or reduced, prevent significant impacts through mitigation measures, and disclose why a project can move forward, can be approved, even with the potential for environmental impacts. In CEQA, there are certain projects that are categorically exempt from further environmental review. Examples would be ministerial projects, administrative permits, such as minor CUPs, minor site plan reviews, and temporary use of land permits, as well as some existing facilities, public improvements, and infill developments pursuant to CEQA guidelines. So, if a project is not categorically exempt and following a detailed initial study and assessment of the project, the CEQA determination can either be a negative declaration or a neg dec for projects that will not have a significant impact on the environment, or a mitigated negative declaration, or an MND. For projects that have potential impacts but could be mitigated or conditioned such to be less than significant, or an EIR, environmental impact report, for projects that may have significant effects on the environment, that includes mitigation measures to lessen the significant impacts of to the environment. If it is determined that a project may have significant impacts on the environment, then a detailed EIR is prepared, and a document must include items that are listed on the slide: project description, environmental baseline, thresholds, project alternatives. So this slide shows the subsequent steps of an EIR, which includes scoping the project in consultation with agencies, the public, and the project proponent. Preparation of a draft EIR, which requires to be circulated for comments for 30 to 60 days. Then the final EIR, which includes comments and recommendations from the draft EIR, responses to comments, the list of persons that submitted comments, and other supplemental information is required. So we're off to the public hearing. So in advance of the public hearing, city staff will prepare staff reports, resolutions, which includes the findings of facts, conditions of approval, exhibits, etc. And based on the findings of facts, city staff will recommend to the Planning Commission to approve or to deny the project. Additionally, the city staff will prepare and mail out public hearing notices to the most current property owners within 100 feet radius of the project site for administrative permits, and within 500 feet radius of the project site for Planning Commission and City Council 10 calendar days before the public hearing. The public hearing notice is also published in the Downey Patriot, which is the only adjudicated newspaper in town. The practice of noticing provides the opportunity for the public to and interested parties to weigh in on a project. At the public hearing, the Planning Commission or City Council opens the meeting to allow city staff to present the project, followed by an invitation to the applicant to speak about the project, to add any other information about the project, as well as the public to address their questions and concerns. Once the presentations and public testimonies are complete, the project proposal is deliberated by the reviewing bodies, and a decision for the project is either to approve or deny, or perhaps in some instances, project can be continued if there's a need to obtain additional information before action is taken on a project. And finally, the last slide provides that discretionary actions can be appealed by any person within 15 days of when the action was taken. As noted, there was a slide, it's gone. But the city planner's decisions can be appealed to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's decision can be appealed to City Council. And the City Council decisions are final, which means they can't be appealed, only legislatively challenged. That concludes my quick presentation and overview of the development process, and at this time I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
And Chair Uva, if I may, through the chair, I have some additional slides. I have about 4 slides that if I could go through them, and then we can take questions. I think I'm just going to do it from here in the interest of time. The next couple of slides, I believe a total of 4, relate to the city's inclusionary housing ordinance. And this is an ordinance that was adopted by City Council in April of 2022. What the ordinance does is has certain requirements for affordable housing units when certain development projects meet thresholds. When housing developments are being proposed in the city and if they have 10 or more units, then the city's inclusionary housing ordinance applies. And what the purpose of the ordinance is to facilitate the construction of affordable housing units by requiring that a share of those units that are being built are constructed and available as affordable housing at the moderate income level, or as an option, the city's ordinance does allow the developer to select to pay an in lieu fee, which is an in lieu fee that would be paid instead of actually building the units at a determined rate. The ordinance in the city of Downey applies citywide. And as I mentioned, the affordability is based on only when there's a project of 10 or more units. For ownership units, there's a minimum of 10% of the total units would need to be designated as affordable at the income level when they're ownership units. And at the for rental unit projects, if there's 10 or more units, 11% of those units would need to be made as affordable moderate income level units. The slide here makes reference to the base, 10% of base density bonus units. At a future training, we will provide an overview of the state density bonus law. But in a nutshell, there is state law that allows developers to request a density above and beyond what's allowed in the city zoning and general plan. And so the way that the inclusionary housing ordinance applies is it only applies to the base units that are permitted and allowed with the city's zoning code, general plan, and does not include units that would be allowed above and beyond per the state density bonus. The next slide.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yes.
Has there been, it's almost going to be a year and a half, 2 years. Has there been, if you can go back to the other one?
Yes.
Has there been any developers that said, hey, we could have built it before, but now that doesn't pencil out after this ordinance? I mean, out of curiosity.
I'm going to give you a two-part answer, and actually you reminded me of a comment that I wanted to make on this slide. Since the ordinance was passed in April of 2022, the city of Downey has not approved a project with inclusionary housing ordinance requirements. In the time that I've been here, I have not heard that. A specific comment mentioned by Vice Chair Guerra that a ordinance has made it as cost prohibitive. But in having worked in other cities and being in the planning world, that is a commentary that I have heard from development community. In our previous presentation at a prior planning commission meeting, we had a consultant provide us an overview on the city's housing element implementation process. Through that process, we will be interviewing developers to get their input on the city's code requirements and the city's overall goals related to housing. And with that, I would imagine we would get feedback like that if there is those types of opinions or other ideas where the city might be able to streamline affordable housing or just housing projects in general at the market rate level. So thank you for that question. The next slide. The city's inclusionary housing ordinance requires a developer at the time of application to provide what's called an inclusionary housing plan. And basically what this plan does, it provides city staff with an understanding of the number of units that are being proposed to meet the inclusionary housing ordinance requirements, where on the site they're being located, and the level of affordability that is being proposed, and also a plan for how they would advertise the availability of those units to the public, a description of any type of state density bonus modifications or concessions that are being requested, and also the developer would need to provide a description of any alternative methods for compliance that they're requesting that are described in the ordinance. Next slide. For the methods of compliance, as I mentioned earlier, the inclusionary housing ordinance starts with the calculation of the number of units that would need to be provided by the developer, and those units can be provided by actually building the units on site. That's the first method of construction mentioned here on this slide. And there's also alternative methods. One that I mentioned earlier is the payment of an in lieu fee that would be deposited into the city's inclusionary fund. The other option is to provide for the units off-site at another location, the dedication of land to the city for the provision of affordable housing, or a combination of those various methods of compliance. And again, the affordability covenants would need to be provided for at the time that the city is reviewing the application. Typically, it would be a condition of approval that the affordability covenant be recorded to make sure that those units are made affordable per the ordinance prior to issuing any grading or building permit. Next slide. There's your slide, Ray.
Oh,
That was missing.
okay.
Sorry about that. That was me.
Is that it?
And that concludes my presentation on that. I just wanted to give you a brief overview on the inclusionary housing ordinance. And Ray, thank you so much for preparing that comprehensive PowerPoint on the city's various development reviews. And with that, we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Do any commissioners have any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay. None? I just have one for Irma. That in lieu fee, how is it determined? Is there a formula? Is there a flat rate? How does that fee come up?
There is a formula. There is actually, at the adoption of the ordinance, city hired a special consultant to provide that analysis to the city. The formula varies on a per square foot based on habitable space being constructed in the project, including any patios, balconies, or decks, and it does not include any garages. And the fee for rental units is slightly different than the fee for ownership units. I have my cheat sheet here. For rental units, there's a fee of per square foot of either $15.90 or $24.90, depending on whether the fee is for rent. If it's for rent, it's $24.90. And if it's ownership, it's $15.90. But the formula is a little bit more complicated than that. I do have a
No,
table.
that's plenty,
Okay.
just to get an idea, a general
Thank you.
idea. Thank you. Okay, so we can now go on to our agenda. Does the Community Development Director have a report on any city council action or other general updates?
I do not today, thank you.
Okay, great. Now is the time set aside for the public hearing for PLN 21-00025 and PLN 23-0086, site plan review, variance, lot merger, and final environmental impact report. Does the staff have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
May the Director of Community Development introduce the staff making the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chair Uva. Tonight, we have our Principal Planner, Alfonso Hernandez, the project planner, presenting this item.
Good evening, Chair Uva, members of the Planning Commission. For your consideration today, I will be discussing a proposal for a new 535,000 square foot industrial development. Specifically, the application is a request for a site plan review, a lot merger, a variance, and lastly, for a certification of a final environmental impact report. The applicant is DJ Arellano, a representative of Prologis Incorporated. Just a quick overview of today's presentation. It is a bit lengthy, sorry in advance. We'll be discussing the background of the site related to the lot size, zoning, and existing uses. We'll then move over to the site plan review, where we'll touch on the overall design of the building, the layout of the site, the intended operations. And after, we'll discuss a request for a variance to deviate from the city's height requirements in the manufacturing zone, then details of a lot merger, and finally, the findings of the environmental impact report. Some quick background, the site is a total of 29.16 acres. It is made up of 5 different lots. There are 5 buildings currently on the site, and in total they make up 433,000 square feet. It is located in the M2 zone, and the previous land uses include manufacturing, warehousing, storage, and recycling. Uses that would be allowed by right include warehouse, distribution centers, high-Q fulfillment centers, manufacturing, storage, amongst others. For reference, the application before you is to construct a large-scale distribution center. Lastly, the original occupant was the Ream Corporation. They manufactured aerospace and national defense products. Here is an aerial of the subject property outlined in red. The property is located on the east end of the city, closest to the intersection of Stewart and Gray Road and Woodruff Avenue. To better orientate everyone, Firestone is located at the top of the screen, Stewart and Gray at the bottom, and Woodruff to the right. I would also like to point out that the site has 2 frontages with multiple accesses. One street frontage is along Stewart and Gray at the bottom of the screen, and the other at the north and top of the screen along Hall Road. Here is the corresponding zoning for the site and nearby area. The site, again, is zoned M2 for general manufacturing, and the general plan designation is also general manufacturing. Directly to the south, east, and west are M2 zone properties developed with industrial uses or complementary uses. Further to the east and west are also residential zone properties developed with multifamily and single-family homes. To the north is the Lakewood Firestone specific plan area developed with commercial uses, and further north is the Stonewood Shopping Center and residential properties. Here is an image pointing out the surrounding land uses. As I mentioned, closest to the site are complementary uses. To the north is commercial, and further from the site, especially to the west, are residential lots. Here are some photos of the site on the way it looked like when it was in operations. It is currently vacant. Both of these images here are taken from Woodruff. And both of these images here are taken from Hall Road. Lastly, here are some historical photos of the site depicting one of the buildings at the top left corner from Hall Road. At the bottom right corner is an aerial of the site, again, when it was originally developed. And the other photos are products that were manufactured by the Ream Corporation. Now we'll discuss the site plan review and evaluate the proposed construction. The new building will be 535,000 square feet with 685 square feet added as well. Within that space will be 490,685 square feet of warehouse space, of which 26,785 may potentially be cold storage. Another 20,000 will be office space, and another 25,000 square feet will be mezzanine space. The lot coverage and floor area ratio are 0.41, meaning that the building will cover 41% of the entire site. The proposed height is 54 feet, and there are 250 truck spaces. I do know that it says 150, but that is a mistake. It's 255. Thank you. And then there are 668 designated passenger cars, parking spaces. Here is the table breakdown of the zoning requirements compared to the project proposals. So here is the lot size. We see that the lot is over 1 million square feet. The requirement is 40,000, so they're in compliance. This is more relevant to the lot merger that I'll be discussing later in the presentation. Next
Can I
is
ask a question on there?
course.
You said something that the 150 was wrong and it's like 200
Yeah.
something. I see on here somewhere it says 109 docks located on the 3 different sites. So is it 109 or 150?
So the parking, the truck spaces on site are 255. There's 109 docks.
Docks,
so
okay.
Along the building, there's openings, and those would be 109.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Of course. So just to recap again, the lot size requirement for the area is 40,000 square feet. The applicant is proposing to merge the lots to create a site that's over 1 million, which would be in compliance, and I'll discuss later on in the presentation. Moving on to the lot coverage, it's not required, but just for reference, there's a proposal of 41. Moving on to the floor area ratio. That's also not required, but the general plan does stipulate that there be a maximum of 0.6 for a floor area ratio. They are proposing 0.41. For setbacks in the front, it's 10 feet. They are proposing 87.5. At the rear, it's 20 feet required. They're proposing 53.33, or 53 feet 4 inches rather. And the sides, although not required, they are proposing 370 from the east and 192 feet with 4 inches to the west. The building height requirement is 45. They are requesting a deviation to build at 54, which I'll also discuss later in the presentation. And here are the correct numbers for parking. The requirement is 646 spaces. They are provided 668 standard vehicle spaces and 255 truck spaces. So here's the project site plan. Stewart and Gray is at the bottom of the screen and Hall Road at the top. The building is outlined in red, and the blue represents the proposed office spaces. The mezzanine spaces are not shown, but they are built on top of the blue spaces in the office. So within the building, you'll be looking at 2 floors, first the office and the mezzanine on top of that. The cold storage space that I previously mentioned is not shown because at this point, there is no placement, and that's highly dependent on the tenant that's going to move in. I have not yet mentioned, but we'll do so, is they currently do not have a tenant for the site. Lastly, the surrounding areas outside of the building are made up of parking spaces and landscaping. Here is a rendering of the proposal showing the front elevation. This is from the west end of the site facing east. This view is from the east facing west. And this is the middle portion of that elevation. Here are the proposed elevations. For the front of the building, the image at the top displays the entire width of the elevation. To provide better visual, I've cut that elevation in half. They do mirror each other, so I'm just using one half of that building. That'll be the middle photo. The architecture style is a contemporary style and incorporates a mix of materials. First, heavy glazing is utilized at the corners of the building with smaller opportunities for glazing throughout the elevation. All of the glazing is complemented with steel elements such as canopies and awnings over the entrance and the windows. The siding material consists of metal corrugated panels that are located along the site and identified as number 8 on the screen. Wood-like panels are also incorporated as a material and installed at the corners and where the building recesses to provide a visual break along that wall. Lastly, the remaining siding will be the concrete panels that are made up to construct the building itself. On one of the panels, it's identified as number 2, will be a solid color, while the wall identified as 2, 3, 4, and 5 will have a vertical design of different types of paints. Colors. Here is an image of the rear elevation. Again, the top displays the entire width. I've cut that in half. They also mirror each other. The materials and the siding mimic the front elevation. The only difference is that this one does incorporate docks. And on this side, there's 28 truck docks. Here's an image of the side elevation. Again, the architectural elements are the same as the side and as the rear and the front. Again, the only difference is that these two sides also have truck docks. One side will have 42 truck docks and the other will have 39. As I mentioned before, the applicant currently does not have a tenant for the site. However, we do know that the site is designed to be logistics heavy with 109 truck docks and 255 truck parking spaces. Additionally, the site would be able to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with 250 employees anticipated at any given time. Lastly, the potential uses, as previously mentioned, although there are a lot, their anticipation to be large distribution or high queue fulfillment or potentially manufacturing or storage. Here's the site plan once again indicating the location of the docks. So just for clarification on the screen, I'll point out where the docks are. So along here, here as well, and here as well. The other squares around are the truck parking. Also wanted to point out the different exits. So along Hall Road at the top, there's 3 different exits or entrances as well. And then along Stewart and Gray, which you can't see on the screen, there are 2. I also wanted to point out that for the exits off of Hall Road, they are to be right turn only, heading eastbound. This is to prevent trucks, and specifically for trucks, this is to prevent trucks from traveling on the residential road on Hall Road west of the property.
Is there a way how do we mitigate that? I mean, that was part of your guys' concern too in your report about that. And you said, only anticipate 8% going through the neighborhoods or so forth. But, looking at this graph on there, 9314 Hall Road is literally 40 feet away from the entrance there. That's a residential, had 3 cars in the driveway tonight. How do you mitigate that or stop the trucks from doing that? I mean, 8% of, 20,000 truck trips a year, that's a lot.
So to clarify, the 8% is for passenger cars. So it should be 0% for trucks. So on an attempt to mitigate that, we have a condition that the applicant will install right turn only at the opposite end on the public right of way and also on their property. Also, we have a truck map designated for the city. Any truck that's found outside of that map and using segments of the road that are outside of that, they're subject to citation from the police department.
But right now, you can go eastbound on Hall, on a truck coming from the Lessa going eastbound and turning right into here. And that, I don't think that street is mitigated for certain type of trucks. I mean, the bigger trucks can come down Hall. Right now, it is for commercial vehicles, even because it's light residential on that side. So how do you stop them from going eastbound on Hall? I understand going left on there when they get out of there, but coming in to it though.
I would say if a truck chose to do so, I think they have the capability to. In terms of our truck route, they're not supposed to, and they'd be subject to citations. In terms of maybe some brainstorming or ideas that we could come up with, our traffic engineer is here. Maybe they could present some different types of ideas that we can use to prevent that from happening.
Because, I mean, this is a big deal, you know, the traffic. I mean, you guys expressed that you were concerned with that. I figured 109 docking bays, you know, at 200 days a year is, you know, 20 some odd thousand truck trips going in there and out. If 8% of them, you know, go left or go through the neighborhood even coming in, we're talking substantial numbers. So those residents there are going to have some issues.
And I apologize. I did want to clarify too, the 8%, and it stuck in my head because we do have a figure of 8% in our trip distributions. We have two maps of the trip distributions. One is for passenger vehicles, which are allowed, or we are anticipating rather, not allowed, anticipating rather that 8% of the traffic will travel there. We're anticipating that 0% is supposed to travel for truck vehicles.
Right.
Yeah, just wanted to provide some clarification. So here we depict the circulation possibilities on the site. Every drive aisle located on the site is a minimum of 26 feet. This is enough clearance to accommodate freight trucks and emergency vehicles, such as ambulances. The second part of the application is for a variance. The request is to deviate from the height requirements of the M2 zone. The maximum allowed in the M2 zone is 45 feet. However, the applicant is requesting for a maximum allowance of 54 feet. This is shown on the screen. To the left end of the screen is where the maximum height will be. On to the rear part of the screen. At the front elevation, the highest portion will be 51 feet and 6 inches at the center of the front elevation. And the bottom cross section is depicting the heights from the interior. So the interior heights from the sides will be 42 feet, and at the center, it will be 47. And we describe that, I believe the technical term is clear height for the interior of the building. So the applicant is requesting a variance because they believe that modern industry standards now call for clear heights that are shown on the bottom image. To go even further, the current standards of 45 feet cannot have considered how large-scale distribution would evolve over time. And compliance with 45 feet would restrict the applicant from building what they deem to be a state-of-the-art facility. Staff has confirmed that newer large-scale distribution centers, both nearby and further away, such as the city of Los Angeles, Ontario, San Francisco, and Goodyear, Arizona, are being built at the heights proposed. And the Los Angeles project also went through a variance, citing the similar reasons for the variance. The third application is for permission to merge the separate lots into one. As previously mentioned, there are 5 lots on the property. Those lots are identified in the assessor's parcel map and on the screen as 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. The map this is a map that will be recorded. The lines in greens are the ones that will be removed and resulting in one large lot. Moving over to CEQA. The project, like other projects that come before you, are subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. Most projects are typically exempt. In this case, the project underwent an initial study. Through those findings of that initial study, it was determined that the appropriate review would be an environmental impact report. Procedurally, the city as the lead agency complied with the provisions of CEQA, and here are some of those steps. The city filed a notice of preparation, notifying the public and outside agencies of an intended project, as well as held a scoping meeting, providing an opportunity for members of the public and outside agencies to provide comment. The purpose of the NOP, or the Notice of Preparation, and the scoping meeting is for individuals to share information that may be beneficial and important to analyze and study in the draft environmental impact report. Next, the city also reached out to Native American tribes that had previously requested to be notified for such projects. Only one of the tribes responded, and the results of that consultation are detailed in the Tribal Cultural Resources Mitigation found in the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, which I'll discuss in a separate slide. Next, when the draft EIR was completed, the city published a notice of availability, notifying the public that they can review the document. The public review period was a total of 45 days. Notices were sent out to all residents, property owners within 500 feet, outside agencies, the Native American tribes, and all other interested parties. Comments were received during the period, and we'll also discuss those shortly. And lastly, the EIR is brought before you for your review and consideration. CEQA outlines various different categories of environmental impacts that must be evaluated. Amongst those categories, the following categories have been found to produce no impacts or less than significant impacts. To provide some examples for why these categories are deemed no impact or less than significant, we'll pick a few shown on the screen. So using the agricultural and forestry category as an example, the site would not conflict with these types of resources due to the city's urban setting. Second, using biological as another example, there are no protected or endangered species on the site, and there's also almost no trees located on the site, so there's less of a chance of nesting birds. Therefore, that's why there is less than significant impact. The example of air quality was also used in the staff report, and that's on page 10 of the agenda for this item. There we can see that while there are pollutants and there may possibly always be pollutants for projects, they do not exceed the acceptable levels determined by the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Therefore, topics like that are deemed less than significant. Moving on to other impacts, the categories to the left are found to be significant unless mitigated, and those are cultural resources, tribal cultural resources, hazards and hazardous materials, land use and planning, and transportation. And there is one category that was found to be cannot be mitigated and would be an unavoidable impact. And we'll discuss that in a second as well. For those categories that can be mitigated, those mitigations are found in the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program to ensure that they are enforced. That is Exhibit D3 of your packets. Related to cultural resources, we have incorporated mitigations CUL1 and CUL2. These mitigations include procedures to follow if archaeological artifacts or human remains are discovered. Related to tribal cultural resources, we have 3 mitigations. The mitigations discuss procedures to follow if artifacts are discovered, names the person who has the authority to assign discretion and what to do with those artifacts, and also procedures for how to appropriately relocate artifacts or remains. The category of hazards and hazardous materials includes procedures for how to appropriately remove and dispose of contaminated soils, asbestos, and lead. And lastly,
Can I ask something on that
yes,
last one?
of course.
So that's not a super fun site because of the construction that was done there back in the day in the aerospace. I mean, we have the promenade location. There's another one on Dolan and so forth that have some contamination issues. I mean, the promenade, took years to clean it up, and it's great now. But we don't have any issues there because the photo that you showed with some of the heavy manufacturing that was there before. So I assume that the CEQA already addressed that.
Sure, I could touch on some of it. I may have to defer to our consultants. We do have consultants on joining us remotely that may be better suited to answer that question. However, there are contaminants in the soil that are currently being remediated, which are not part of this project and were undertaken and started before the project. And those procedures hope to clean up that site. But whether it's a Superfund site, if we could get our consultant, Tim Belsman or Aaron Gustafson, if they could confirm whether it's a Superfund site.
I assume the new owner, Nescro, is making sure that that's going to be cleaned before they buy it, I would assume, right? So,
to my knowledge, it'll be cleaned during and after and during its operation. That procedure, it'll be lengthy.
okay.
Yes, and Alfonso, one thing I wanted to add, so in the hazards and hazardous materials section of the EIR, we do identify those three hazards mitigation measures, which include procedures for contaminated soil, as well as procedures for any lead and asbestos that are encountered during demolition of the existing site.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that big building now. It kind of looks like an abandoned Detroit, you know, with all the windows broken out and so
Yeah.
forth. So, yeah.
So for the land use planning and transportation, those mitigations are related to impacts directly related to vehicles, miles traveled, and I'll discuss those in a moment as well. So discussing the noise-related impacts that are significant and unavoidable. Specifically, the impacts relate to nighttime construction of concrete pouring. The noise levels generated at the closest residential property will be 64.9 dBA. This is equivalent to a noise generated of a normal speech to vacuum cleaner. So 60 would be normal speech about 3 feet away from that normal speech, and 70 is at vacuum cleaner. But it'd be between those two things that residential properties would hear when the construction goes on at night. So those activities will take place for a total of 40 days non-consecutively, and for a maximum of 12 days consecutively. Even though we cannot impact or we cannot mitigate those impacts, we still incorporated a mitigation requiring that the applicant apply for what's called a temporary use of land permit, which will notify the city exactly what days they're going to be doing it and for how long they'll be doing it in terms of timing, the specific times. And also, more importantly, they're required to provide a 48-hour notice to the residents that are within 300 feet away, not just residents, on all property owners and residents that are within 300 feet away. And again,
Why, and I'm sorry to ask questions.
Sure.
I mean, I can save them all
Of
the
course,
end, but you're on
please.
the point.
Yeah.
Why can it not be mitigated? Why is there night construction going on for 40 days when you got residential right next door?
So specific to concrete, my understanding is that because of weather, so if it's too hot and you're pouring the concrete, then it wouldn't cure
And
as
it's concrete
effectively.
tilt-up? Is that the building?
It is a concrete tilt-up building. So they'll be pouring a slab, and then concrete tilt-up is every wall is also poured and then tilted up and put in place.
That's a lot of night days.
So lastly, although the impact is deemed significant, the Planning Commission still has the authority to certify the EIR if it deems that the project provides benefits that outweigh that impact. Staff believes that it is an appropriate authority considering the temporary nature of the construction and the impact. This is approved through the adoption of a statement of overriding considerations. Going back to the land use planning and transportation, the mitigation and impact deal with vehicles miles traveled, or VMT. VMT means the total amount of miles traveled per employee coming and going from the site. Without any mitigations, it is estimated that each employee would travel a total of 19.2 miles. The Air Quality Management District establishes a threshold of 15.3. With mitigations, the project will come down to 15.2 miles traveled. The purpose of the mitigation is to provide opportunities for alternative forms of travel. This can be done by providing bike lockers, showers, rideshare vehicles, and having a designated transportation coordinator. A designated transportation coordinator would provide resources like connect people that would like to carpool, or make sure that there's a guaranteed ride home for individuals who take buses or have a broken bike, such as that. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Is it on now? Oh, yeah. Regarding the bike facilities, are you referring that employees will be riding to the job site or to the workplace?
The objective is to provide them with facilities that would make it easier for them to make that choice. So providing showers or bike facilities would not incentivize, but make it easier for someone who'd like to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And then ultimately the objective is if they did, then we would be reducing the VMT and the traffic. So although it's not a significant impact or analyzed by CEQA, I did want to share the findings of the traffic study conducted for the project. Briefly, the project will generate a total daily trip amount of 3,483 trips. This compared to the previous daily trips of 3,316 on trips. This accounts for a net increase of 167 trips per day. This translates to a peak hour trips of 456 in the AM and 631 in the PM. Compared to the previous uses, in the AM peak trips, this is a negative 47 generation and an increase in the PM of 189 trips. The peak periods in the AM are 7 AM to 9 AM, and in the PM, they're 4 PM to 6 PM. Using the AM peak as an example, this means that within any 60-minute period between 7 AM and 9 AM, it is expected that the site will see 446 vehicles come or go from the site.
Do
Yes.
we have any idea what Lakewood Boulevard is right now? Because we lowered 9,000 truck trips when Coca-Cola went to making these on site, the injection molding. So that was 9,000 less truck trips on there, but that was an issue, just the vibration, the streets, everything else. So you're talking 3,483 times every day times, even what, 250 days? That's, wow, that's substantial. So.
I did want to point out too is we're also accounting for the current trips that were generated by the previous uses. So it's estimated that there's an increase of 167 a day.
167, but the other use, there's not, okay. A lot of them are closed down, the ones that are there now. So, okay, so you're saying 167 times, let's say 200 days. Okay, let's give the benefit of the doubt. That's 33,400 more truck trips a year. More, not total, more. Wow, that's a big number. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. In terms of where these trucks are going, the distribution, 95% of the trucks will be or estimated to be traveling to the east on coming and going from the site to the 605. It's a bit difficult to read. But so from the site, all of them are traveling, 95% of these trucks, only 5% will be traveling on Stewart and Gray in either direction. And then 10% are traveling down Stewart and Gray. It's anticipated that they travel down all the way to the 105, and then the rest of them would travel to the 605. And my last slide, during our NOA period, the notice of availability period, the city received 6 letters from outside agencies or interested parties. Staff and consultants have reviewed the comments and have determined that those comments have been properly addressed or are not subject to CEQA or do not present any new or substantial information that would warrant any new analysis or recirculation of the draft EIR. In conclusion, it is staff's opinion that all findings can be made in a positive manner, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alfonso. That was a very thorough and very extensive report. Thank you. Do any planning commissioners have any questions of our staff? Commissioner Guerra, go ahead.
No, go ahead, let them go first. I'll go. So I know the residents have been within 500 feet and notified and so forth, but there's a whole block, just west of there. A lot of multifamilies and even single families and so forth. So have we heard anything from the residents? Did we just send a mailer to them, or have we heard anything one way or the other from any of the residents in the area?
I've had one phone conversation with one of the residents, and they were concerned with air quality due to their own health issues. I talked them through the air quality and the thresholds established by AQMD and described to them the numbers that would be produced by the site.
Okay. And I'm not an expert in CEQA, and it was 906 pages that we got on Friday, so I'd read as much as I could over the last 4 days. But the pollution, obviously, you got 33,000 more trucks. You got 696,000 trucks coming into a year there to that site. Now on there, the pollution, I share that. The concern. This is this will forever change and impact that side and our city forever. This project here will forever impact. I mean, we've seen the issues in the Empire. I mean, I'm all for new development, everything else, and you know, most of the spots there are vacant, and I get it and so forth. But how the pollution impact there, how do we mitigate it? I know we got a couple of letters there, and I get the, you know, the folks that were talking to us about the Environmental Justice Alliance and all that other stuff on there. But I want to hear from you guys. What the pollution impact is got to be huge.
Sure. I also, before I answer that question, also on the question you asked before about the public comment on, my understanding was it was only conversation with residents. So that conversation was with residents. We did receive another 6 letters from 2 from public agencies and others from interested parties. So I just wanted to clarify that too. And the other thing I missed saying before when I was talking about trip distributions, so part of the traffic analysis also looked at different segments of street segments, it looked at different intersections and evaluated level of service. So level of service is graded from A to E or even F. In our general plan, the acceptable level of service is D. The current level of service is also D, and that traffic analysis found that it wouldn't shift that number. It would remain D. And then in terms of pollutants, I may have to defer over to our consultants. However, those were analyzed too from a traffic perspective, and on those numbers, to my understanding, did not exceed the numbers or the thresholds established by AQMD. So if our consultants could confirm.
So this is Mark Rolfe. I'm with Helix. I did the air quality analysis and the noise analysis for this project. And yeah, the numbers for both the criteria pollutants, that would be ozone precursors and things like PM10, they did not exceed the thresholds from the AQMD. And for GHG emissions, it was just a slight increase of about 400 metric tons per year, and that did not exceed the AQMD threshold of 3,000 metric tons per year. So one thing that hasn't been mentioned here is that we do have a baseline of the existing businesses that were on the site until this redevelopment started. So I mean the truck trips are actually projected by the traffic engineer to go down, so they're not going to increase. The overall traffic will increase, but it's mostly passenger cars. So the data I have is project is proposing the trip generation of the project will be 98 truck trips, and the existing 818 average daily truck trips. So it's a big drop in truck trips, but a fairly big increase in passenger car trips.
Sir, with all due respect, that doesn't make sense. You got 109 docking stations there that are going to bring in trucks, and you got 250 parking spots. I don't know how you can reduce the number of trucks or cars coming into that area when you're increasing, you know, by its right, you got 109 docking stations to have it. And by the EQ and the CEQA on there, you're going to have 33,400 more per day. So it's kind of hard to imagine there's going to be less truck thing. I guess my question is, based on what we have now and when we anticipate what the numbers in this report say and stuff, you know, at what point does it become, are we going to look back at this 10 years from now and this can continue to grow and have more truck trips and everything else and saying, holy smokes, these, you know, people are getting hurt there by pollution that are now 30, 40 feet away. I mean, they're living there. And if you want to go to PC agenda page 4, the one that looks like this, so the one that you had it with the housing thing that looks like right here and stuff. So, you know, my concern is to the left of that, if you can put that up there, I don't know how we do that, folks. The one that looks like this.
Rhea, can we put the presentation on?
Because this is an important one here to see, because this one, you know, highlights exactly that. It's PC Agenda 4. It's got the site map on it with the housing residential next to it. No, that's not it. Stop right there, right there. Okay, because see, so you see on the left-hand side, so you have an industrial building there on the left-hand side on there, but and then you have one building there on Hall Road. But the multifamily in the very corner one there that's chopped off, those are all going down Hall. So you got from there to the point on the property there, that's not very far. And I'm saying is, and then you have multifamily, and I saw lots of kids, and even in the rain there, you could see all the kids and stuff today, and I saw them last week getting ready for this meeting and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people out there, and it's a lot. It's going to be traffic. I'm glad it's going through Hall and not Stewart and Gray, but I can't believe the pollution is not going to be harmful there that close. I'm concerned about the closeness of it to a residential area, but.
Of course, just for reference, the residential is 300 feet away. I think that those are fair points. I think staff analyzes the project based off of the numbers that were provided in the CEQA document, and the numbers indicate that they don't surpass the thresholds of AQMD.
Okay, so there's 300 feet from the red line, even if you go through the industrial building there, from the red line to the backyard of that sign that says multifamily right there.
Sure.
And you're saying that's more than 300 feet, or it's 300 feet?
Approximately exactly 300 feet.
Okay, all right.
And I say that just for reference, not to provide any.
Sure. Yeah, because I don't know 300 feet or whatever the number might be on there. Okay, all right.
If I may, through
Yes,
the chair, if I could add just a little bit of context related to the commentaries about the proximity of this type of intense M2 industrial use, a distribution center. We do understand it's large in scope. For context, the land use that's being proposed, as mentioned in one of the earlier slides by Alfonso, it really provides that the use itself is permitted by right. So the proximity of the M2 zone and large number of parcels being there already existing as industrial uses is an existing condition, and the fact that it's in close proximity to residential is a fact based in our zoning code and also in our general plan. The distancing requirements and separation of those types of sensitive uses, single-family homes, your point well taken, Vice Chair Guerra, are usually historically, when there's an opportunity for cities to look at that, it's through the zoning and general plan document. And so when applicants are looking at existing sites to potentially take something that is open air, as you see in this aerial here, that had a lot of activities that were exposed to the elements that did not have roof coverings, and they're looking at potential sites to recycle and bring them to today's current market standards, these are the sites that they're looking at. And the applicant, by proposing what they're proposing, are adhering to the zoning standards, the development standards of the zoning code, and are consistent with the general plan. And those are part of the findings that are included in the resolutions before you for your consideration. I say that not to undermine your comments, Vice Chair Guerra, because I think those comments are well appreciated and have been taken to heart by planning staff through this multi-year long process for this project. I hate to say it, and the developer will probably say it before me if I didn't have this opportunity, but it has been a couple of years that they have been working with staff to undergo the proper vetting process that Ray described earlier in our prior presentation, to ensure that when we brought this project forward to the Planning Commission, that we felt that we had not only looked out for the community impacts, but also how to mitigate those impacts proactively with the engagement and conversations with the applicant. The site plan and what Alfonso has described as right turn only out of Hall Avenue is in cooperation with the applicant. That's something that we discussed, and they understood the concerns of city staff to ensure that as we recycle the site into a new improved industrial use, that we're looking at ways to make the community and the neighborhood better living environment, because the zoning, as I said, is not changing as part of this project. That's already an existing permitted use. And then I will end my comment, because I know it's a little bit long now, but I end my comment with saying that the environmental impact report is the highest level of environmental analysis any project can take. And I commend the applicant for going through that process with city staff and being very cooperative with a lot of technical consultants. We have on Zoom and behind the scenes, and with staff Alfonso taking the lead and ensuring that we're meeting the letter of the law, but also going above and beyond where possible. I'll end by saying that the mitigation measures being presented in the resolution for your consideration are a result of taking all that information over the course of time and looking at the agencies that are responsible for providing the city and the developers with the thresholds that we cannot exceed in order to make the determination that a project does not have a significant impact on the community. And that's what's being presented to you today as part of one of the resolutions, with the exception of temporary construction impact related to the pouring of concrete. And so that concludes my comment, but just to provide a little context of the background of the site. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And with all due respect, though, we're being asked to consolidate 3 different lots into one and build a 500,000 square foot warehouse, which we know in some other cities where it becomes the trucks on there, there's going to be 700,000 trucks coming in and out a year, according to this report. Okay, I mean, 696,000 trucks on there. So that's a huge thing. We don't have 700,000 trucks coming into that area now. We just don't. And then you're going through, you turn right on Hall, you turn left on Woodruff, you got multifamily homes right there, and then you turn right on Firestone. So I'm just saying, this is, no matter what, this is a huge impact, and I appreciate it. I'm glad that CEQA on there, you guys work really hard, and so has the folks doing it, so I understand that. It's just, this is a big project. This will forever be different in the city on there. And I don't know how, but there's gotta be a better way to mitigate turning right out of Hall Road than just saying, don't turn there or you're gonna ticket. It's just, there's gotta be some way to do it differently. I mean, you guys put a medium in or something on there, I don't know.
If I may, thank you for your comment, Vice Chair. I think what we can do is we can take other questions. We'll put that one, and then we'll also listen to the other commentary if it's okay with the chair. And then we'll have our Deputy Director of Public Works, Ed Norris, address the questions and any commentaries related to the travel of vehicles on Hall Road, since he was an integral part of reviewing that portion of the project. And then we can maybe take it from there. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hernandez,
Yes, sir.
when was the last time you had a public hearing, public outreach?
The last time we had public outreach on was, as of 10 days ago, we issued the public notice for this presentation, for this public hearing.
I'm sorry, how long ago was that?
Can somebody pull up the date? The public
10
notice
days.
date.
He said 10 days.
Through the chair, the public outreach for the project is based on this Downey's municipal code, and also which is consistent with the state code. So for this project, city staff noticed in the newspaper, providing at least 10-day notice in writing to all property owners as required by the municipal code. We also advertised it in the newspaper, the Downey Patriot, and that's meeting the requirements of the municipal code. City staff, we went above and beyond that. We also noticed the residents of within, am I saying it correctly, 300 or 500? 500, thank you. 500-foot radius of the project site. So we did go above and beyond, not just noticing the property owners, acknowledging that some of the residents there may be renter-occupied units and there would be impacted equally. So we noticed both the property owners and the residents. The code does not require us to do any outreach beyond that, but applicants are always highly encouraged to do that on their own. And if we proceed through today's hearing, if there's more interest in hearing from the applicant, I think they will be able to elaborate on some of the topics that are also being brought forth by the commission tonight. And I know they're anxious to address the commission as well. Thank you.
And the date of that notice in the newspaper was February 23rd.
But, so we send a notice and we bail, and then 500 feet, how many houses is that? Because if 300 feet, 3,000 feet is from the red line to the back of the thing, 300 feet or 500 feet can't be too many. And I think what the commissioner was saying is, it's like, yes, code says you have to do this, but this is a life-changing project for all these residents. I don't know, we should have gone a little bit more.
I can elaborate a little bit more. I think something that I might have missed in the prior slides, and we might be able to go to it, Alfonso, for the environmental. The environmental review process is actually a multi-month and even a year-long process. Part of that is considered public engagement. There is a notice of preparation that's provided to agencies and interested parties that may have a say in how the project is impacting the environment. There's also a scoping meeting where there's also notification to the public. And I believe we have a consultant online that might be able to elaborate on the process that took place regarding that, Alfonso.
Sure, yeah. So specifically,
The process related to the notice of availability and preparation and the scoping meeting.
I could provide some details. So as Jim was saying, aside from just noticing for this public hearing, there are different steps that we need to take and also provide notification. So notification first started on March 25th, 2022, where we issued a notice of preparation. We found that some of the links were a bit broken, so we extended that an additional 30 days. It was an initial 30 days, and we extended that an additional 30 days, and that notification went out, the second notification went out on April 2nd, 2022. There was a scoping meeting that was held on April 18th, 2022, where members of the public could come out, or outside agencies or interested parties could come out to provide comment and let us know of things that we should consider. After that, when taking all that into consideration, we finished the draft EIR and submitted or published a notice of availability, which also went out to both residents and property owners within 500 feet, interested parties, outside agencies, tribal, Native American tribes, and that went out on December 13th. That was published in our paper. It was sent out through mailers. It was also published with the state. The state clearinghouse is the I'm forgetting it, Office of Planning and Research, sorry, and where they publish all secret documents, and it's available to different agencies and interested parties. So that was the extent of our public noticing. Also, the applicant posted 2 4x8 signs at the property showing a phone number for the city and phone number for the applicant as well.
Mr. Hernandez,
Yes,
you said December 13, what year?
December 13th, 2023 was when we issued.
2023?
Yes, sir.
I have another question. You mentioned earlier that you have unavoidable impact due to noise, due to the concrete pouring overnight.
Yes.
You know, I find this hard to believe that you can only pour concrete at night. I think pouring concrete overnight is very noisy to the public, and especially when they're pumping the concrete with the big units. And I was wondering, was this proposal, pumping concrete overnight, was it approved by the Public Works Department? And who's going to be doing the inspection during that time?
It would be staff's responsibility to conduct the inspections in terms of the Community Development Department with the Building Division. In terms of the pouring at night, that is on a proposal from the applicant in terms of whether there's alternatives like that have to defer to the applicant to see if they can do it at a different time. Yeah. And then in terms of permits from the Public Works Department, if there is stacking on the street because of these trucks, then they would require for them to get a encroachment permit. If there is no stacking, they can accommodate all the trucks on site, then they would just need a building permit.
As I understand it, so there is no condition for the applicant to be able to pump concrete during the daytime? That was his choice, but doesn't mean that's his decision.
Well, I think it's presented before the commission on, I think there's specific reasons why they feel as though they have to pour overnight for the weather conditions that I stated is our understanding. But again, I'd have to defer to them in terms of whether they can make alternatives to that.
Through the chair, I can also add a little bit more context related to that. And then also, I suggest we also allow the applicant at some point to be able to answer and add to staff's responses. But for large projects like these, and given that it's in proximity to other businesses and residential uses, the practicality of queuing concrete vehicles in large numbers for large pours is something that's taken into consideration. It is common, it doesn't mean it has to be accepted, but it is common for projects of this size to make arrangements to have some limited nighttime work on a temporary basis to allow that activity to not interfere with the business activities that would take place for other businesses and residents happening nearby. So like I said, there could be a number of vehicles that have the concrete that are queuing waiting to pour. And so that is also something that was likely considered by the applicant. But again, this is another question that I suggest we allow the applicant to address the commission when that time comes. Thank you.
Another question, if I may. The conceptual design plan, the DIR suggested that that site be in compliance with the MS4 permit?
I'd have to defer to our consultant, unless.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
The question is, does the site comply with MPDS program?
Thank you for that. Yes, the site will be required to comply with any types of requirements as part of the NPDS program. And the responsible agency for ensuring compliance would be between the building division and also the public works division. And that would be done through the plan check process. Both of those departments and divisions would be involved in ensuring compliance and provide the appropriate inspections for that.
One more question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the pollutant that Mr. Guerra was talking about earlier, what are the possibilities that the applicant will provide a cleaner diesel so you don't have that many amounts of soot coming out? And what are the possibility of having electric trucks?
Sure. I think we'd have to defer that one over to the applicant. I do know that there's EV chargers, future EV chargers presented. I believe, off the top of my head, that's 29. And also, before your previous comment, I also wanted to address that on conditions number 90 through 94 of the of the resolution address NPDES conditions. But I'd have to defer to the applicant for your previous question.
One more question, sir. Do we know what kind of hazardous material these trucks going to be hauling?
None. So the EAR evaluated none. So technically they wouldn't be allowed to because it wasn't evaluated through the project.
Because it mentions something about pesticides and other hazardous material in the report.
We
didn't include all of it.
We can have our consultant confirm, but to my understanding and as I remember it, we didn't evaluate any. On the hazards we did evaluate were for the deconstruction of the site and potential contaminants for asbestos and lead, and we mitigated that to make sure that's captured and abated in a correct manner. But I'll defer.
The only thing I'll add is we can also have the applicant provide a little bit more context to the types of materials that would be transported by the trucks. I know they haven't identified a tenant yet, but I think they can provide a little bit more context on that. With regard to storing any type of fire or hazardous materials, the site would be subject to obtain a fire permit from the fire department, and also in coordination with the building division. And I know on a regular basis we have some large industrial type of businesses in the city of Downey that I have recently been involved in discussions as far as what happens with monitoring those sites and ensuring compliance. And so that's something that our fire department and community development department coordinate on a regular basis.
Another question, sir.
Yes.
Is there any street dedication at all that the city is imposing on the applicant?
From the top of my head, I believe that answer is no, but if you allow me a quick minute.
I can start through the chair. I can start answering that question. There are street improvements that are being required of the applicant that include the installation of a parkway and street trees. And that would be shown on a street improvement plan, would be submitted to the Public Works Department for review. And that's something that the applicant is already aware of and is part of the conditions of approval by the Public Works Department.
And in terms of street dedication, I'm seeing none.
Is that on Hall or Stewart and Gray or both?
Hall. For the street improvements, they'll be adding sidewalks on Hall Road.
Mr. Hernandez, was there a geotechnical report inside the IR?
Yes, there should have been. We could defer to our consultant for that one, if Aaron or Tim could provide some comment.
Yeah, sure. This is Tim Belsman at Helix Environmental Planning. Yeah, a geotechnical analysis was conducted, and it is included as an appendices to the draft EIR and final. Some of the results or conclusions are summarized in the effects not to be found significant section, I believe, of the EIR. And I do want to just make a correction there also, that there was a separate section for geology and soils that also provided some details to that report.
Commissioner Saikali, you're good?
Yes.
Okay, great. Commissioner Lujan.
We touched a lot of the things that I was also going to ask about, so I'm not going to start over. But I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned there were some EV chargers. You said how many there were installed, or they were going to be proposing to install? I don't know, was it 16 or 19 or 29? I can remember.
That's 29
29
spaces.
So that means that we're going to be encouraging to have like cleaner air, big trucks, because I've seen that there's more of those on the road now. So that would probably have a good positive impact on the air quality report.
My understanding, those 29 are for passenger vehicles. I
All
would have to
passenger,
defer.
or not for the trucks?
I'd have to defer to the applicant if they intend on doing any truck EV.
Okay. No more questions for me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Most of my questions have been answered too, but one question, you mentioned when the construction begins that there would be a 48-hour notice given to the residents. How is that notice given?
So the applicant's responsible for providing that notice, and the 48 hours is every time there's an event for the pouring. So we will be issuing, or they'd have to apply for what's called a temporary use of land permit. Within those requirements, we'd like to see what that notification is, and that notification would have to go out every single time that there is pouring. So if there's pouring in one event that just lasts 3 days, that would require notification 48 hours. If a week later they have another pouring the last 5 days, that would also require notification again.
And that would be to the residents that live there?
That would be to all properties within 300 feet. So 300 feet is the affected area. So that'd be to all properties, whether it's business owner or whether it's residential, and it'd go out to both property owners and tenants.
Okay, and I'm assuming it's just gonna have to be dropped on their door or their porch, because you couldn't do a mailing. Or could you? I don't know.
You can't put it in the paper and wait for it for Friday.
Yeah.
It's like,
Very true. Our intention would be that that'd be mailed out, similar to how we mailed out the mailers for this public hearing, but perhaps we should put some more time into it and be a little more creative in how we do that.
Yeah, because the mail now sometimes doesn't happen within 1 day. Sometimes it'll take 3 days just to get from City Hall to, a residence in Downey.
Very true.
Through the chair, if it's the pleasure of the commission to modify or add to that condition of approval, it can be made in such a way that if there's sufficient advance notice, that it include mailing for advance notice in addition to any type of delivery of, that the applicant were responsible, for example, like a door hanger that Edison provides when there's work being done. I know I've received those at my home.
Right.
So if it's a pleasure of the commission, the commission could propose a modification.
Okay, great. And in that same line of talk about proposing a modification, we don't know when this construction is going to occur. It could be in the heat of the summer, it could be in the winter. I would think that that would make a difference on the pouring of the concrete on a winter night. It's not going to be as hot as a summer night. So is there a way, like we've done in other cases that have come before us, where we have limited the hours of construction, discussed it with the applicant, and they were always willing to do that? That's always a possibility, right?
I think that is definitely within your purview.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions.
And through the chair, I'll just clarify that the restrictions on noise are not only in the conditions of approval, but also in the mitigation monitoring program. And it currently states that the hours of the construction would be prohibited between 9 and 7 a.m., with the exception of any granting of temporary construction as we previously described. But again, that's at the pleasure of the commission, as you have in the past.
Okay, great.
Can I have one more question to follow
Absolutely.
up on that? How many houses are impacted by the 300-foot thing?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but as soon as I get back to my computer,
Okay,
I'm
because
sure
the
I can
only
generate
reason why,
that.
I just think it's not enough. If Coldbrook, the houses we saw there, are 3,000 feet away, then 300 feet can't be that many. And I'm saying we need to, all those homes on Coldbrook that have all those apartments and everything else that are just right there, we need to go the extra strength and length and notify them, because that's a big deal. 300 feet, I bet you it's not that many.
Sure, I could check, but regardless of checking, I believe it's within your purview to ask for more.
Yeah, because that Coldbrook is just,
It's
if you look
full.
at it, it's a lot.
It's a lot of homes,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of 8-unit buildings, 10-unit buildings,
Yeah.
there's a lot. It's very high in density there.
And if I may, how are you measuring a 300-foot? From where?
From property line.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah, see, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to hog it up on there, but to follow up on Ms. Hertron's, comment on there about the point, I mean, this is 29 acres. There's not that many more businesses that are going to be around there anymore once they buy it. If you're looking at what's there now, how it impacts Woodruff is right there. That it's almost at the end of, they own all that. They're gonna own from Woodruff all the way over to the industrial thing. So my point, I think, is just trying to piggyback on that, is having trucks coming in to pour and not disrupt it, and the other businesses, is not that much, because they're there already. I mean, these guys are gonna own this. I mean, that whole block area. I mean, it's 29 acres, guys. That's a big spot. So anyways, I just want us to go overboard on trying to help the residents there, because I'm telling you, 5 years from now, the city's gonna be getting complaints on the noise, on the traffic, and on the pollution. And I wanna make sure we mitigate those as much as possible, so.
Mr. Hernandez, another
Yes,
question?
sir.
Sorry. You said the hours of operation are 100% from 7 to 5, and 40% from 5 till like midnight, and 60% from midnight to 7 a.m.?
Those are estimations within the EIR. Yeah.
Okay, so for the residents who lives within that area, you have trucks coming in from midnight till 7 o'clock in the morning. Is there any possibility of changing the plans from having 60% overnight, so that way you wouldn't have that much noise for the public? Maybe lesser than 60%?
Thank you, Commissioner. Through the chair, I think we can address that question with the assistance of the applicant. And if I could ask that maybe we consider opening the public hearing to allow the applicant to address some of the deliberative comments. I think there's a lot of great points related to community impacts, which is the point of this public hearing. Staff through the public hearing process can also continue to address and assist the commission in maybe considering amendments to conditions if that's the pleasure of the commission, but I believe that it would be beneficial to have the applicant give them an opportunity to address these various important comments.
What's the possibility of modifying the 300-foot radius, a little bit larger, like a 1,000-foot radius?
Through
So
the
that way
chair,
we can
that is at the pleasure of the commission, as this commission has done in the past, is to increase those distancing requirements. So that is something that can be discussed amongst the commissioners and deliberate on what is an appropriate measurement. The notification requirement of 300 feet is based on a technical analysis of the impacts. And so the way that noise travels and those impacts are heard, as Mr. Hernandez described, the difference between a decibel level of speech and also at a vacuum, those were the decibels that were being described at the presentation. But again, points well taken from the commission. I would like to give an opportunity to the applicant to be able to address some of these comments, and through that process, staff can assist with any modifications that may be necessary.
Okay. I think you're off the hook for now, Alfonso. Before I open the public hearing and call the applicant or his or her representative, this would be the time for the planning commissioners to disclose any pre-site visits, pre-hearing discussions that the commissioners may have had about this project. Start with Commissioner Saikali. Want to pass it down? All right, Vice Chair Guerra.
I have been to that project, that site, probably 3 times since we've first on there. I walked all the way, hauled all the way around thing and so forth. And then we did all receive a letter from some gentleman that I read it over the weekend and so forth, telling us, so that's the only correspondence. I think it's the applicant was the letter that we all got in the email and stuff. So that's it. That's the only correspondence or thing I have.
Okay, Commissioner Lujan.
None for me, just the letter, that's it.
Okay, Commissioner Saikali? Okay. I did drive by the property 2 different times, and I did park on Hall Road. The gate was open, so I did walk the property. It's pretty, as far back as I could go just to get a good general feel of it. And I did receive 1 call from a resident who owns property in the area, just asking questions about who is going to be the tenant that's going to occupy the building if it does go through. Okay, so I can now open the public hearing is now open. Will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward to give testimony?
Thank you. Honorable Chair, esteemed commissioners, my name is DJ Ariano, representing Prologis, the applicant and current owner of the proposed project. Before proceeding, I'd like to express my profound gratitude to city staff, particularly our diligent planner, Alfonso Hernandez. We've had this project going through planning for a couple years now, and his dedicated assistance has been instrumental in bringing this project to your attention today. Prologis is a proud steward of Class A logistics real estate worldwide. We undertake development processes, own and manage our properties in-house, ensuring our robust pride in creating high-quality projects, attracting superior tenants, and creating considerable employment opportunities. Apart from the proposed site, we are privileged to own and manage an additional 5 properties within the city of Downey. We are excited at the prospect of presenting this redevelopment initiative for your review this evening. All of our latest construction initiatives, including the one under consideration today, are designed to meet and surpass LEED Silver standards. These certifications underscore our commitment to various aspects of environmental sustainability, such as energy efficient design, solar power systems, electric vehicle charging stations, and incorporation of smart building management systems. These features will ensure the building remains environmentally friendly for its entire lifespan. We are also excited to maintain our longstanding association with our union partners who will construct this project. The valuable contributions of Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, the Carpenters, District Council of Ironworkers, our Plumbers Union, Pipe Fitters Union, the Sheet Metal Workers Union, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers will be integral to the successful construction of our building pending approval. We're delighted to enjoy their active support tonight. Our ultimate aim is to be a good neighbor by continually contributing positively to our community. We have worked diligently in collaboration with the city staff over the past few years and feel confident that we've designed a project that is optimal for future use, reduces environmental impacts, contributes to the community, and is visually appealing. That was my prepared speech. I wanted to kind of comment on a couple things that we've heard previously in questions. First, there's a comment about trucks turning left onto Hall. We are open to working with staff on putting maybe like a little pork chop. I think Commissioner Guerra said median pork chop. We're okay with that. I mean, in general, trucks wouldn't really turn left. They're gonna go to the highway, which is right. So in reality, there wouldn't be any reason for them to turn left, but we are definitely open to adding that mitigation. There's a comment about whether it's a Superfund site. It's not, but there is environmental remediation that is ongoing, that when we purchased the property, we proactively engaged with the Regional Water Quality Board. We're currently monitoring groundwater. There is currently an active soil vapor extraction system, and that will be relocated to account for the new footprint, but we are cleaning up the site. The site does not meet residential screening levels, so the site couldn't be really anything but an industrial use because of the previous impacts that happened. Regarding the concrete, so while the weather is a consideration, it's cooler at night, the real issue is basically the control of the concrete. And during the night, we get about 30 concrete trucks an hour that come in and we pour continuously. So if during the day, it's a traffic issue, right? So coming down really anywhere, having a delay in traffic really impacts the construction process. So it's really about there's less vehicles on the road. And to control the concrete and control the pour, it is industry standard across California. It's done like this. So I just really wanted to say it's really to control the construction process. I know there's a comment about 3,500 new trips or new truck trips. Those are actually, I think it's 35, as I know Alfonso clarified, it's 3,500 total trips, not truck trips. And I believe the Helix who did the reports noted that the truck trips are actually be decreasing with this project. So I just want to make sure that's clear and on the record. Also, one of the comments, I know we talked about in 10 years about air quality. And I think to be clear, air quality over the last 10, 20 years has exponentially gotten better. And the South Coast Air Quality Management District continuously creates rules especially for that, right? So trucks now all trucks going into the Port of LA and Long Beach, I think for the next year, have to be electric. There's no more trucks that can be sold in California after 2030 with the internal combustion engine. So, in 10 years, actually air quality is gonna get much better. So I think the question of that. Our project, I know there was a question about electric vehicle charging stations. We are putting auto electric vehicle charging stations. We're also installing conduit for truck electric vehicle charging. We don't know who our customer is gonna be long-term, but we are being proactive to put parking stalls so that if and when they need to electrify their fleet, we will be ready to have electric vehicle charging stations for our trucks. Prologis is actually one of the leading companies worldwide in truck electrification. We own electric truck hubs, which we call them. We have received $50 million in grants from the SCAQMD to build these across Southern California. So we take a lot of pride in our sustainability and what we are contributing, helping air quality here in Southern California. So with that, I will stop, and we have reviewed and accepted the conditions of approval, and we have reviewed and accepted the condition of approval, and we're here to take any questions that the commission has. Thank you.
I have a question, sir. Was there any site testing for contamination?
Yes, that was done and documented in our Phase 2 report.
And how deep was the test taken down to, what, like 50 feet, 100 feet?
Off the top of my head, I do not know, but I do not know how that question, answer the question. It's done deep enough to evaluate what has the contaminants of that area, though. So, but I do not have an exact number. But it is in our Phase 2 that has been provided in the EIR.
Do any commissioners have any questions?
I do. I'm just doing that. So thank you. And by the way, your company has a really good history and reputation on there. So and you have other locations in Downey. I do know that, and they're well maintained and well taken care of. Do you guys have any charging things in those locations in Downey?
So we do. So we just built a truck terminal on Woodruff,
Right.
and that is also in our new spec going forward. We always run conduit for trucks, but there is installed electric vehicle charging stations. Yes. And
I understand that you may not have the tenant. You guys are a big company. You guys know how to run business, and obviously you're building a 500,000 square foot building. But what do you anticipate going in there? Do you anticipate one massive one, 10 different tenants, or what are your thoughts now? You guys have some game plan. You wouldn't just put that up.
Sure. And to be fair, a 500,000 square foot building in the mid-counties market is very rare. It's really, there is nothing on the market. There pretty much hasn't been anything on the market like this for some time. So we are expecting considerable traffic, one tenant.
We used to have a million square foot building on there. A little space shuttle was built in it. We knocked it down, by the way. We couldn't get another tenant. I'm kidding you.
No, but we're expecting the Fortune 100 companies. Part of our customer list includes Home Depot, Ford Motor Company, Tesla, Nike, Williams-Sonoma, Pepsi, and we're going to be proactively reaching out to our existing customers. But we're expecting a company that really everybody's heard of it. That's what we're expecting.
It's basically going to be for logistics with the 109 docking stations.
We really don't know, to be honest with you. It could be logistics. It could be distribution. We don't know, but we are designing it to be flexible. It's a great location, great city to deal with. So we're just designing to have flexibility. We have, I think, 30,000 of cold storage. Odds are we won't use it. There won't be any cold storage, but we analyzed it for flexibility.
My last question, I'm sorry I'm taking so long on this. What's the anticipation, the construction time and completion and all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we're already active in our construction drawings, so we're really excited about this one. So once we get through the approval process, and if approved, we plan on completing demo or starting demo right away with, I think we're anticipating 4 months of demolition, and then rolling straight into construction. We feel really bullish about this site and really bullish about the opportunities here. So,
and across the street on Hall is that long railroad tracks, right? Yeah. Is there anything that's going to be put in there from? I don't know. I know that's not you. That's on the other side on there. But from our standpoint, to beautify the dirt on Hall and something like that. I mean, is there any discussion been with them? Or just us as a city? And Mr. Norris, any thoughts on that? It's like, I thought I was done with you. Anyway, I'm talking about the railroad tracks. They're going to have, 700,000 vehicles going in and out of there, and you got the railroad tracks with the dirt lot that the water runs into. Are we fixing that somehow?
I can answer that through the chair. As part of the Community Development Department, we have engaged with communications with the right-of-way folks to look at not only in Caltrans as well, because some of these are in not this site, but other sites. We're looking at improving the maintenance of the right-of-way for the railroad. So there's actually conversations undergoing about different spots where we see a lot of activity that shouldn't occur on a railroad, including debris and other things that I think you're mentioning. So yes, we are, through the Code Enforcement Division and PD and various departments, talking about that with them.
And lastly, sir, it's hard for us to look at the plans. I mean, the construction and the design looks, fine, if you will. But I want to encourage you and our staff to keep pushing the envelope on that, to be creative, trees, looks, aesthetics out there. The more we can make it not look like a warehouse, the better it could be. So I just encourage you for that. So thank you. Thank you. You my time.
I just want to say thank you for still investing in Downey and trusting that we could be good neighbors here and be good neighbors to the community residents as well, and taking them in consideration through the whole process of the construction and just keeping them in mind.
Sure. Thank you.
And I hope you plan to recycle all these demolition, all the steel and the concrete?
Yeah, that's all, usually the demo contractors, that's part of their, they take all that in consideration. That's not going to go into a landfill, that's for sure.
And I concur. Thank you for bringing this project to Downey. It's a very ugly site right now, and it will be greatly improved and be, a really nice building, and it will be great for the community if we can just get through these couple of little bumps that we've addressed tonight. My hope is that we can extend that notice to the actual residents that live there for the construction. That they're going to be kept up at night by the noises and stuff. So if we can make that radius larger and make sure that it gets on their doors, because I don't think the mail will always get to them in time. So I'm hoping you can cooperate with us on that.
Yeah, we're flexible with working with staff on being able to make sure they're getting noticed.
Okay, great.
And through the chair, if there could be some direction to staff regarding the distance, that would be very helpful.
Well, Alfonso, do you have your computer up to include on our little maps that we have, to include all of these?
It's Colebrook, I think.
It's Colebrook is the big one for sure, because that's more than 300 feet away.
Where's the other ones? Across the street and Woodruff, the corner of Woodruff and Hall, I guess? Am I looking at that's all multifamily there?
Yep.
And off of, that's Colebrook right there.
So to capture all of Coldbrook, that would be a radius of 750 feet.
Oh, that's, okay. Does it give you a number of houses or units or whatever?
We may need a little bit more time to generate the number.
Okay. Well, no, I'm just saying, I didn't want to give you a lot of extra work, but I really don't care. I like that stuff. I mean, that street is important to let those residents know. I shouldn't have said it that way. I didn't want to generate a lot more work for you, but that doesn't scare me, because Kamala, those Coldbrook, those people should know. So thank you.
And we're agreeable to noticing the residents to the west up to Colebrook, if that's the commission's request. We're okay with that, and keeping the, I guess, commercial industrial portions 300 and
The more
still may-
people that you let know and
Yeah.
make happy, the better. And a lot of time is information. I guarantee you there's going to be people coming back to us now, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't see the paper, I didn't see the thing. And so, and that's, I mean, it's part of it, but going the extra distance for that, especially I mean, you're gonna have 30 concrete trucks in the middle of the night. That's, wow. And those are apartments with a lot of families there, a lot of kids, so.
Yeah, with up to 12 consecutive nights of that too, so,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Give them a Starbucks card too, and, and help them with other things too. Yeah, so.
So can we draft some additional language to reflect this?
Thank you, Chair. We can if we will work on drafting. I already started drafting a couple of items.
Okay.
I'll work on that with Alfonso. If we want to proceed with the public hearing, we can have
Sure.
something back to you with regard to, just to be clear, things that staff should be looking at for modifying conditions are the distancing for notification for the temporary construction overnight, and also the door hangers, direct notification to the actual
Residents.
property that is located, to each property address that's located within 700 feet. And the other item that staff would like direction on is related to the idea of creating some type of permanent barrier to prevent a left turn onto Hall Road going westerly. But I know the public hearing is open, and so to the extent that we'll work on those items, but we would need clear direction on those.
Do we give it to you now, or wait till he's done?
I think she wants us to go forward with
It's
it.
up to the chair, but the public hearing is open.
Yeah, maybe we should wait till we hear the public comments and then draft something. Mr. Ariano, thank you.
Thank you so much.
May staff confirm whether there has been any correspondence in favor or in opposition?
There has been. In front of you and at the back of the room, there was a letter submitted by a Stephen Pipecorn of the Golden State Environmental Justice Alliance. That interested party also submitted comment during the NOA period of the EIR. They contend that the EIR is flawed and should be redrafted with some new evaluations and recirculated for public review.
Can I ask you something? They mentioned 3 points in there. Do you know what those 3 points are?
Yes.
The 3 objectives?
So, yes, it's still on. So in summary, they question when the site became vacant. So that's important because CEQA is analyzed from a baseline, and that baseline is from when we started the project. They question for when it was actually vacant. And then the other is environmental justice issues. They also question the integrity of a software system that we use to analyze air quality. And it's called the Cali mod, but that system is well used by professionals in this industry. And if our consultants are online, maybe they could share some more information on that as well. And lastly, they cited other traffic concerns.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? You may come forward. If I can just have a quick show of hands as to how many people want to come up? Okay, maybe we could line up maybe 4 or 5 at a time just to help move it along so we don't have to wait for you to get up individually. Great. Come forward, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Mendoza. I'm a 33-year member of La Una, which he mentioned, the laborers union. I'm here with my members and my brothers and sisters of La Una. We are in favor of the project. I've had a great career in La Una.
They're required to get.
These gentlemen and the lady have started their career. Let's continue these careers for these ladies and gentlemen. We're in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Liz Vega. I'm the owner of Onstage Dance Center located at 11711 Woodruff Avenue. I will be the neighbors to the new property here. This project will be a huge improvement to the property. I am here in full support of this project that's being presented tonight by the staff. On a side note, I have a little bit over a 16,000 square foot building and huge parking lot. I'll be happy to share it with any of the trucks, concrete trucks that need to be parked and waiting so we can help out in any way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Wanya McDonald, and I'm here to speak in favor of the project here before us. As a young Christian man, I'm eager to see opportunities like this in our community. A half a million square feet of warehouse space means a lot of jobs for people at different education levels. It means young people and their families have an opportunity to make income and to prosper. Nearly 27 square feet of this project is cold storage. That means not only are there opportunities for entry-level jobs, but advanced level jobs as well. So this means that there is opportunity for advancement within the company. Our community is looking for these type of opportunities. So please approve the project. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Martinez, and I'm here to speak in the support project of 9300 Hell Road. Deuteronomy 8:18 says that you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you wealth, and that he establishes your promise. Not only does this project promises jobs, but it keeps the American dream alive. The dream that is each generation can worship and work to their heart consummate. These warehouses jobs may not be glamorous as some other jobs, but they're relatable in this economy and society that is very unpredictable. Having to relatable God and relatable job brings a lot of peace to our lives. Please follow Principal Planners Alfonso Hernandez's recommendation and approve this project. Thank you and God bless y'all.
Thank you.
Hi guys, good evening. Zach with Care California. So I just want to commend you because it's evident that you really care about your city. And I know this because we work a lot with Prologis, and they're, if I was to say they were a world-class developer, that would be a drastic understatement. Prologis is the best in the game. So, and also kudos, Alfonso, because it just shows the depth of your bench in the city of Downey, because the level of detail that he's aware of for the project. And there's a lot. It takes many years, several years anyways, to put together one of these reports. So Prologis is a multi-billion-dollar warehouse developer. And whatever you put on the table, they're going to meet you in that place. They're not going to leave the community in any position like, we had talked about with, people coming back and complaining. They're going to go to whatever length necessary to mitigate whatever potential concerns you might have. Otherwise, CARE wouldn't support them. So I think it's important to understand that any developer could come up and claim that they are presenting a great Class A warehouse development, but Prologis is the absolute very best, no exception. And so whatever you decide tonight, just know that the product that'll come out in the end, especially with cold storage, because that's more than just your typical tilt-up. The 20,000 plus square feet of cold storage sets this building apart. So that's not just entry level, that's another tier of skill for your workers. But just wanting to circle back around and say, you really have an opportunity here to set the bar with regards to other smaller developers by showing your willingness to work with Prologis. And we don't say that because we're in their pocket. We really hold any developer that we come into partnership with to an extremely high level of scrutiny. So when I say that this is a great opportunity for your city, it doesn't matter what the type of building, when you're talking about a developer at this level and this class, you're blessed to have them and you're blessed to be working with them. So thank you for your time. We support this project. Have a good night. God bless.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Doug Summers. I represent UA Local 709 Fire Sprinkler Fitters. We're an organization that's been providing a skilled and trained workforce in the business of fire protection since 1919 in LA and Orange County. The Stewart and Gray warehouse project is one I'm here to support. And Prologis has made good commitments with the skilled trades, providing a safe working environment, livable wages for middle-class families, and benefits. So I ask that you approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick Garcia, and I'm here on behalf of the Sheet Metal Workers Local 105. We are here tonight seeking your support and approval of the Stewart and Gray warehouse project. We commend Prologis for committing to paying wages that will secure our assure our families are taken care of, and are assuring our workers and community are supported. Their commitment to our local skilled workforce signals a commitment to responsible and equitable development. Please vote yes tonight and show your support and commitment to us and the community. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Jordan Ceccatelli. I'm actually a member of Sheet Metal Workers Local 105, but tonight I'll be speaking on behalf of Local 11, that's electricians. We're speaking today to support the project and ask for your support by voting yes tonight. This project will be a huge contributor to the city of Downey and will give back to the community. Prologis has chosen to support the local economy and local labor, showing their commitment to not just the city's present, but to its future as well. We members of the skilled trade stand behind this project like this, and we ask you to approve this with your vote yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hector Rosales. On behalf of Plumbers Local 78, we are here tonight to support the Stewart and Gray Warehouse project, and so ask for your support as well. This project has our full support because it will provide good paying union jobs. We commend the developer for working with unionized labor on this project and supporting a strong middle class. As the city of Downey works to build a better and more equitable city, union workers like myself should be a part of this equation. This developer has made sure this is true. We ask for your yes vote tonight to support this project and support us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Justin Walters on behalf of UA Local 250, and I'm here to support the project as well, and we also seek your support. The Stewart and Gray Warehouse project will provide a lot to the city, and will do so while having supported the local skilled and trained workforce. It will bring fair pay and benefits and support to the blue-collar middle-class industry that does give a lot to the local economy. We support the project, and we ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Mitch Ponce, and I'm here on behalf of the Bridge and Structural and Ornamental Iron Workers to express our support for the project and ask for your support with a yes vote tonight. We are excited about this project, and it will provide good paying jobs, hire local residents, and use responsible contractors. Prologis has made sound development choices, and we praise them for it. We are proud to support the project and ask for your approval and support of it too. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Tyler Bird. I'm the president of Iron Workers 416. We proudly support the Stewart and Gray Warehouse project and seek your approval for it tonight. Prologis has made a commitment to local hire. Because of this, the project will allow our hardworking men and women to advance their careers while earning middle-class wages and benefits. Most importantly, this commitment to the local skilled construction workforce members will ensure a high-quality project and that the community basic economic needs are supported. Please stand with us in support of this project by voting yes tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Diane. I actually live at 9214 Hall Road. So I'm that first house, that 300 lucky winner, yeah.
You have the Prius in the driveway.
Yeah, that's guilty.
See?
Guilty, that's me.
Yeah.
So thank you for your questions. I felt like everything I was thinking you were addressing. I'm all for an improvement on that street. I've been a resident of Downey for 21 years now, and it's gone downhill since I've lived there. A lot of transients, a lot of homeless. And then when the companies closed up, it just became very desolate and almost uncomfortable to, walk at night and stuff like that. Before, at least there was more action or activity, and if something were to occur, you could yell. There's also the train that was mentioned, and that, comes down every Thursday night, really loud. So it rumbles my home. I don't know if you're aware of this, there's 2 memorials on each side of our street on Hall Road. On the east, it was a young lady who was decapitated by a diesel, and then on heading west, it was, unfortunately I saw that was a skateboarder going to school and got hit. And that I do believe is due to the density of the street parking. It's not, we have a lot of apartments, so we have a lot of turnover. Every month there's moving trucks and there's different amounts of people living, in the apartments. So the cars, the volume, it's a guess. Sundays, every Sunday, people get tickets on the street because there's just not ample parking for the residents. So I am, again, all for this. I've seen the Polis, I forget the name of the company, but I've seen this, gorgeous. I saw the one on Woodruff. I mean, I would love that. My concern is the traffic on that street. It's going to be, big rigs, they go down our street. They go west and they go right. We've been to the city. My husband came and he spoke, and the policeman shared that they have the option to get to the nearest freeway exit either way. That's what we were told. I don't know the exact verbiage, but that was said to us. I've also called many a times for the dump, because by the railroad tracks, everyone, due to, I think, the apartments, we just get it's a furniture store. You know, they have sofas, and you could just come and take your pick. So there's little surveillance on that street heading east. And there's just families, small children, you know, that have small children. And it's a working class community. It's not the nicest part of Downey. It's working people. You know, we get up early and we go to work and get our kids, and you know, so it's a very active. So in reference to the notices and things like that, I think that's why people aren't responding or as concerned, because you know, they just don't understand what's occurring. So those are my concerns. That is why I'm not for the project. I would love to have it you know, the dance studio was such a great, when I saw it, I was so delighted because, you know, the energy and everything like that. And of course it doesn't complement, you know, the street doesn't back that up. So that's my spiel. They mentioned the bikes. I mean, it's hard to walk down that street to begin. It's a narrow street. It's not, and we're talking, and I don't know how you're going to make sure that it's a right turn. And I just can't imagine to go, I would pick up my son from school. I would have to leave and on our return to get back home. It was just because the hospital's up the street. We've got Walmart. So Lakewood is just, we got in and out. It's going to take a while to get. So I can only imagine. And turning left, is my time up?
Yes, your time is up.
Well, just please take that into consideration. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make any additional comments? Since there was one in opposition, you can do a rebuttal if you would like.
I think we're good, but we will make sure we talk with our neighbor and give her a direct line to us during construction or anytime. So we'll make that connection.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wishing to come up? I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight, taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. We as a commission greatly appreciate when public comes and gives us their comments. The public hearing is now closed. It is now time for the planning commissioners to deliberate. Does the commission have any questions at this time, or would you like to discuss the item? And I think we do. Go right ahead.
Mr. Ariano, if I may.
We can't, we've closed the.
Oh, okay.
It's only between us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean,
That's fine,
we
that's
can
fine.
we can reopen it if you feel
that's
we
okay.
need to.
I'm just curious to find out if it's possible to employ local hire from City of Downey to work for that facility during the construction.
Through the chair, I suggest you open the public hearing to allow the applicant an opportunity to respond.
Great, then we will reopen the public hearing. Mr. Ariano, if you don't mind coming up again.
Thank you. What was the question? You repeat that? About the construction, local hires?
Yeah, local hires from the City of Downey.
Yeah, I mean,
Local hires and our union friends.
I mean, our union, our partners and our contractors definitely prefer local hires. So we'll make sure that whatever contractor we choose, we'll, you know, talk with our union partners to make sure that they get priority to work on this project. But I mean, that's what we can promise, but we can't, I can't tell you they're all gonna work here, but yeah, we will make that connection.
Yeah, I understand some of these laborers may not be as skilled as these gentlemen here, but nonetheless, you can use them for a lesser construction such as cleaning, what have you, something that they don't have to be skilled at, but at least give them the opportunity for the residents here who don't have the skills that these gentlemen would allow them to work as well.
Sure, and maybe one of the gentlemen from Liuna or the laborers have a better answer on how they assign, who works on what project. But we will make that connection with our general contractor to prioritize local labor. Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners have, can we close?
Yeah, close it.
Okay, let's go ahead and close the public hearing again. Any questions?
I have a question on the 54-foot. I guess that's the new standard. I mean, that's 5 stories high, so that's just pretty big. Is that an issue, or is that something that, I guess I should have asked that earlier.
Through the chair, yes, thank you for that question. The question relates to the variance request to go from 45 maximum in the M2 zone to 54 feet. As presented by Mr. Hernandez, staff did have some discussions, extended discussions with the applicant, and we actually did quite a bit of research of other cities' zoning codes, but not only that, the industry needs related to high cube fulfillment centers and logistic and distribution centers. And we found that our code is really, the root of the problem is our code is outdated. It hasn't kept up with the market design features for what a warehouse or distribution is in today's world versus when the code was written. So through that, we did find that the code when it was written, did not anticipate the types of logistic and high cube fulfillment centers that are being designed these days during these times. And so through that, it did warrant, and we were able to make findings in a positive manner to support the variance. In addition to that, we had extended discussions with the applicant with regard to the design of the project. As you were able to see in the renderings and the PowerPoint presentation, the applicant and their design team did take a lot of attention to the detail, the articulation, the difference in materials, and with all of that, we did conclude that the exceptional design of the building and the change in market needs for a high cube fulfillment center did warrant supporting positive findings for the variance. And then one last thing I'll note that we did include in the EIR some in-depth analysis about the variance. One of the items that we included in there was the design of the parapet wall, which exceeds the height maximum of the zone. The parapet wall is serving to screen the any potential future roof-mounted equipment for any uses there, which is an important part of the aesthetics for our design review. So with that, we also felt it was important to support the variance to allow not only the warehouse to have the space that it needs on the interior, but also to achieve appropriate and properly and well-designed roof screening for the building.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions at this time?
Should we make our comments now before we vote, or?
Yes, but I think at this time, we also need to address those 2 modifications before we vote.
I want a third one.
Okay, okay.
So, I agree, turning left on Hall should not be allowed. So somehow, if you guys can work on that, and then, and this is my opinion, whatever, hopefully the committee agrees with that. But the other part too was also enforcement of the trucks coming eastbound on Hall too. I mean, the lady was saying that it happens all the time, and evidently our police think or know that they're allowed to go either way on that. So having that clarified for whatever our law enforcement, he's going to yell at me later. Anyways, but I mean, verifying that what the law is there, and then enforcing it and figuring out a way so we can try to mitigate trucks now, even before this starts, whatever happens, but definitely not be able to turn left on the Hall. Whether Mr. Norris can build a nice median there with some pretty trees in the middle of it. It's got to be skinny because it's a very narrow street. So that's the third thing that I wanted. I'm sorry, they're mitigating the left-hand turn. Hopefully you guys will
Okay, so are you clear on what we're,
Yes, I am,
okay.
Chair.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I was considering the concrete pour instead of being from 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. Can we consider at least something such as 7 p.m. to midnight, or 2 a.m., 7 p.m., or 8 p.m. to 2 a.m.? So that way that we reduce the noise for the public during overnight hours?
Through the chair, I advise that we open the public hearing to allow the applicant to respond to the commissioner's concern about nighttime pours. I know it's important for a project of this size to achieve a certain amount of efficiencies and their construction, and so I would advise that before we propose any limitations on time, that we allow the applicant to provide input on that to the commission.
Okay, great. So we are now going to reopen the public hearing, and Mr. Ariano, I think he's conferring with his colleagues.
Thank you. And I have Jonathan Payne, who's our Vice President of Development for Los Angeles, to answer any questions. So Commissioner, I think your question about timing restrictions, I guess, I think one thing that was not considered, I know the EIR evaluated nighttime pours. If this is during the day, in fact, it's going to be longer in duration. Just to make sure we consider that, right? Because it's the traffic and the flow, it's going to take a longer time to get this done as well.
It also puts the quality of the concrete at risk, which would lead to potentially additional pours, right? So we're trying to preserve a shorter period of pour during the evening hours. So that would be the best case scenario.
So I think what he's saying, if you don't mind, if I can summarize, to just limit the hours at night from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Is that possible, or is that still making it prolonging it?
The tricky part about that is that there's a long finishing process that takes place after the concrete is poured, where they'll bring over various machines to be able to settle out the equipment and then support the curing process.
Right.
So if you were to short circuit that, you don't get to the full curing process, which would lead to a challenge to the quality of the concrete, which would extend the pour out. So we're really trying to make sure that we have the highest quality concrete, so we only have to pour it once.
How many hours or nights that this is going to happen again?
Well, we're working on the phasing right now, so we can put that together. It's probably
I think in the EIR estimated up to 40 days. So.
Yeah, it's 40 in the report.
40 in what time period?
40 day, through the chair, that would be 40 days maximum during the construction of the project, and at no time, no more than 12 consecutive days.
Yeah, so
you got 12 consecutive days of pouring the entire night? How are people supposed to sleep for 12 consecutive days?
Through the chair, that is a very legitimate and important question, and the applicant, if that it's a desire of the Planning Commission to shorten those periods, I advise that we get the expertise and construction advice from the development team, since I know this does affect their construction schedule and also the integrity of the type of construction they're trying to achieve for this type of development.
Yeah, 12 consecutive days continuously is a lot, right? Even for the construction teams that are actually working on the job. I think that 6 days and maybe even 5 days would be more appropriate in terms of a total duration with a break.
That's great.
Yeah.
We like that.
We like that. After we close it, I want us to do that. So
Okay.
please.
Before we close, because I hate to keep doing this, bringing you back up, any other?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the public hearing is now closed again.
Got a record 3 or 4 times opening it up. Madam Chair, could we ask our staff to look at that, please?
Yes.
With that as far as the condition.
Yes, I have a couple of draft modified conditions of approval based on the comments that we've heard from the commission tonight during the public hearing. The first one relates to PC Agenda 55, Planning Commission Agenda 55, and I'm going to try to go as slowly as possible so that our Planning Commission Secretary and our staff can capture the modifications so that we can make the appropriate modifications on the Planning Commission resolutions that would be before the chair if this item passes. The first one, again, is PC Agenda, page 55, related to mitigation measure NOI-1. The last paragraph reads, if due to weather conditions, pouring of concrete at night or on Sundays or on any city recognized holiday is required, the project applicant or the designated contractor should provide written notification of nighttime weekend concrete work to all residences located, strike 300, and instead replace it with 750 feet of the project site. And that's related to the commission's comment about providing a wider notification to include the residences along Colebrook Avenue. The next modification relates to Planning Commission page 81, and that's condition of approval 49. The condition currently reads, construction hours shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays. There shall be no construction on the site outside of these hours unless given prior approval through a temporary use of land application to be approved by the Community Development Director, and the applicant may at no time request nighttime activity to occur for more than 5 days maximum.
Consecutive.
Thank you. No more than 5 consecutive days maximum. And no more than a collective 40 days as analyzed by the Environmental Impact Report. And the last modification relates to Planning Commission Agenda 83, Condition of Approval 73, and I'm going to skip to the last sentence of that paragraph. The final layout and site driveway approach design shall include, if feasible, a median or permanent barrier along Hall Road to prevent westerly left turns and or require the driveway approach to be designed in such a way that the driveway is geometrically designed to only allow trucks and vehicles to turn right onto Hall Road in an easterly direction, thereby preventing left turn lanes going west on Hall Road. Such design shall be subject to review and approval by the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Before the commission deliberates, I'd like to confer with the Community Development Director.
Yes.
He's gonna make it 4 days. No, I'm kidding.
And if I may just make a minor modification to staff's proposed modifications, that the modification to PC Agenda, page 55, remain as is, however, that the condition to require notification for a 750-foot radius be included on condition of approval 49 instead, which would have the same effect of requiring a 750-foot notification. And that modification has been brought to my attention as necessary in order to ensure that any actions taken by the commission today in a positive manner for this project not be delayed due to procedural requirements for having to recirculate an EIR. And just to clarify to the public, the condition of approval would have the same effect and requirements of the applicant to be responsible for notifying within a 750-foot radius, including, and I will add to the comments for the record, including door hangers and mailing, but always including direct notification to the property owners of any construction activities that would occur outside of regular construction hours.
Okay. We're all on the same page?
Yeah.
Irma, you did a great job of drafting that so quickly.
Thank you.
What is the pleasure of the Planning Commission? May I have a motion on Resolution 20, oops.
Can I,
Go.
yeah, so I just want to say a couple of things on there, if I may, with the Chairwoman's permission. First of all, thank you all for coming. My son is a member of the Elevators Union, so I know after a long day's work, for him to go out like you guys are doing here, supporting more jobs on there, you know, kudos to all of you. My initial comments stand, but, and I'll say a but, I don't want logistics distribution, a big warehouse center in the city of Downey. That's not what I want. It's 29 acres there, and I totally get it, okay? Now, having said that, a lot of concerns were answered, and we figure out ways to mitigate it. I think our residents are going to be concerned when they hear this, because this is going to change the face of Downey forever. Having said that, you got a reputable developer that's done other work on there that's going to be around for a while, a long time. And then you also have our staff that's been working on this for several years. So as much as, you know, I mean, as much as this and everything else, so you've done as much work as possible that can be done there. We try to mitigate it. I still have concerns when you have 700,000 you know, and I'm sorry, this says you add up the numbers, even that, at least vehicles, whether it's trucks or not, coming into the city every day in that part of town, and I wouldn't want to be the residents by there. So I think we need to do an education for our residents after this tonight. I will vote for it because my concerns have been, you know, have been mitigated, and if we're ever going to do this, this is the ones, the company and the teams and everything else to do it on there. But you know, being LEED certified, it's a big company. It's going to change the face of Downey forever. I don't want to be a San Bernardino, Inland Empire, Riverside on there. And this is, you know, the gentleman said that. There's no other $500,000 square foot warehouses in LA County. Okay, so, I mean, we could brag about it, I guess, but it's the other way around. So, but with that, I will vote. I think everybody's done a lot of work to do it on there. I just still have concern. And I encourage staff to work with the council. However, when this comes out and becomes, you guys need to do an education process, because coming in here tonight, I was a lot more concerned than I am now. Okay, because all those questions, and we had a tough discussion. Staff, you guys were great. You had the answers because you've been working on it. So I thank you. But I think any resident should. When you tell a resident in the city of Downey that, oh my gosh, we're doing a 500,000 square foot warehouse over there on the east end of town, and it's going to have, you know, 700,000 cars a year coming into that. And they're going to say, are we crazy, or what are we doing? You know, and we're putting 3 lots together for 29 acres. So all I'm saying is I will vote for it with all those mitigations, and thank everybody for working hard. But there's still concerns. We're changing our city by this. And, you know, and I'm not sure what else you do. I mean, obviously they own the property, and I'm all for property owners' rights. And we're not rezoning it, which makes me feel better. The things that we're doing tonight, combining the lots and mitigating a couple of things, but we're not rezoning it. It's not like we're going from residential to commercial, you know, or to manufacturing and stuff. So anyway, I just want to say that, and I apologize if I took too long, but I thank everybody for working on it. And I don't want to make the motion, but I'll vote yes on it when it comes up. So.
I also want to commend our city staff for working on this project. Alfonso, I'm sure you were with it from the beginning, correct? Because you've been here the longest. It's a huge undertaking, and you guys did a phenomenal job. I too had reservations, but the questions were all answered to my satisfaction. And to the applicant, Mr. Ariano, and your team there, thank you for bringing this. Thank you for working with the city, and you know, every obstacle that I think was presented to you, you've come back and remedied it and made it work for everybody. So I really commend you on that as well. Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt PLN 210025 and PLN 230086 site plan review, variance, lot merger, and final environment impact report.
If I can just clarify through the chair that the motion includes the adoption of both resolutions that are associated with the PLNs.
Right, and the resolution numbers are 24-4022 and 24-4023, just for clarification. Microphone, if you're gonna second.
Yeah, I got a second.
Okay. It has
Let me
been,
just clarify also through the chair that the motions be made to reflect that the modifications introduced on the record by our community development director, so that it's very clear that those motions encompass those modifications as she read them into the record.
yeah, absolutely, that's correct. It has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 24-4022 and Resolution 24-4023. May we have a vote, and we will be using electronic voting.
Motion passed 4-0.
The action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter has been appealed to the City Council with the appropriate fee within the next 15-day period as set forth in the city's municipal code. Congratulations, everyone.
Hey, is this warehouse gonna have elevators? No, I'm kidding.
Well, they probably will because they have to.
What's that?
They probably will.
I'm sure, yeah.
That's right by the fire.
He's for Otis.
Continuing on with our agenda, we are going to now do non-agenda public comment. Persons wishing to address the Planning Commission on city business not listed on the agenda may do so at this time.
You want to tell us about law enforcement on Hall Road? No.
I don't do traffic.
I'm guessing no one is coming, not coming up, okay.
Cleared everybody out.
Consent calendar, we need to approve the minutes from February 21st of the Planning Commission, February 21st, 2024 of the Planning Commission meeting.
Madam Chairwoman, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
May we have a vote? Sorry. Did I say yes? Does the Community Development Director have any additional comments?
Just a short comment, just again, echoing some of the comments made by the commissioners of the fantastic work completed by our principal planner, Alfonso Hernandez. He's been a really strong point in our team, has a lot of knowledge, as you heard today, and has been dedicated to this project, working extra hours. So I want to, although he's back, I want to commend Alfonso for carrying this project through, along with other projects that are in process with the department. I would also like to commend the other staff, Ria and Marissa, Abraham, and other members that work behind the scenes to make each of these planning commissions happen and be prepared with our packets and transitioning from paper to digital and being hybrid when needed. So I'm thanking each of them for doing some of the research, even for some of the questions that come up during the meeting, And the reason that I'm able to come up with modified conditions of approval is through the teamwork that they're providing me and assisting me. So thank you to the team for that. And that concludes my comments.
You know, it helps for us when our staff has credibility and we're able to see it live before us on there when we ask a question and you may or not be you're going to find it. So anyway, so thank you. You guys make us feel better about issues.
All right, we are adjourned.
I'm going to go home and go to sleep.
Yeah, you're probably really tired.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you work today?
No, I was in DC this morning. I just flew in.